The Boros Legion is the standing army of Ravnica. When the war came, they were most ready. But not only their pompous, war-hungry side was ready, they had their feathered, zealous righteousness locked up in prison, ready to fight for her cause. Feather the Redeemed is a 3/4 flyer for 3 mana, which is already insane. You do have to have exactly a red and 2 white for her. She's a legendary angel and her most speaking ability is yet to come. Because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets one of your creatures, when it resolves, you will get it back at the next end step. This ability single-handedly makes Feather the first great Boros commander, redeeming the colors as well as the guild, as well as herself. Her colors are tight, meaning that there is no generic mana. This often signifies that the card is pure. With Feather, this is definitely the case, because Feather is a real reincarnation of the Boros ethos. The Boros Legion is one of the 10 guilds of Ravnica. It was founded on the belief of harmonious coexistence through strength. They would find an ally in the also white-aligned Azorius, who state the rules while Boros enforces them. The Boros Legion themselves started with a strict hierarchy, where there was the leader first, then there were the angelic war leaders, then even more angels in the Fire Main Angels, of which Feather was one, and then these are just warriors basically. Then there were the Battle Force Angels, who are lesser warriors, and then the first other races came, with the guild mages first and then a whole load of normal military ranks in the Boros army. But, like with all strict hierarchies, when the enforcement falls away, the shifted culture creates monumental shifts. So when the first leader Razia died, the Legion went through a soft state. In this time of red-aligned chaos, Feather was the guildmaster. But without being able to feel the red side of the Legion too much, Feather failed to bring new structure. So, Aurelia took up her post. She was way more suited to the fiery chaos of the Legion and set up different garrisons for each district. This was nice because these garrisons could specialize against guilds like the Dimir and the Rakdos. In this way they could install the giant Minotaur Grosdan in Rakdos territory. The Rakdos have even complained about Grosdan being too aggressive at times, which says a lot if the Rakdos say that. But even though Aurelia's leadership fitted the situation better, Feather could have been a great leader who would truly enforce order, which was the initial goal of the Legion. Still, Aurelia pressed on a matter from the past. Feather's real name is Piracor As Fenren Graf, but this was probably too hard to say and write every time, so it became Feather. Feather used to be a Fire Main Angel, which was an Angel Knight, pretty far up in the ranks of the Legion. Then, for seemingly no reason, she was deranked to the Wojaks, the police force of the Legion. Other angels would be demoted this harshly only when they would let around 15,000 soldiers die, so Feather must have done something significant. But there is a weird event on Ravnica every 10,000 years where all sins are forgiven, and Feather was released of her history. With this, she would be sent on a mission to look for the Parhelion, which is a huge flying aircraft that houses a lot of Boros angels. They probably parked it wrong. After this, she became the guildmaster. But like I said, Aurelia wanted the reins and pressed on Feather on the fact that she was condemned into the Wojak Legion a long time ago, for not disclosed reasons, which sucks. But now, in War of the Spark, we see her redeemed. In this war, they needed every help they could get, and they installed Feather as the leader of an angel squadron, kind of at the old rank of an angel war leader, which is a promotion, again. Feather has had a little bit of a roundabout way, but she's climbing the ranks of the Boros again. Will she become guild leader again? We don't know. But until then, Her name is inspiring. Feather is the signal of strength for many people. It is a gift from the skies, just like Feather is to the Boros and to every Magic player that likes to play Boros. She redeems Boros in its status and is the first to many to solve the problem of what it stands for, where Boros can still hit hard but could land like a feather. Feather might also be one of the only angels that's able to create new angels. She has created all live angels at this moment on Ravnica and is the last of her generation. I am not sure how this power works, but there are more superpowers for her generation. She can never lie, so she is actually very trustworthy, and Feather can hear her name everywhere in Ravnica. I am not sure whether that would be Feather or the whole Piracor as Finran draft. No idea, but I hope for the latter. Feather's story is heavily linked to that of the Parhelion, because she was sent to get it after it got stolen by a psychic dimmer vampire named Sadek. Feather had not been there when Sadek stole the Parhelion, because of the demotion that we have no reason for. This was a strike of luck, because Sadek had killed all other angels on the aircraft. We never do get to see the home of the angels again. The first version was built as a tool to find out where all the planeswalkers came from. But when they tried to find out, the world of Ravnica just ended. Ravnica is a flat planet. The planeswalkers were forgotten about after that. The second version of the Parhelion was built as a new home for the Boros angels. But more than that, it is a police car for them. Why do angels need an aircraft when they can fly? No reason. The Parhelion also has a giant beam of flashlight. This is just light and not a weapon, as its flavor says. But when you shine it on the undead, they burn because they see who they are and cannot stand the prospect. Amazing writing here. It is interesting to me that we hear about Razia and definitely hear about Aurelia, but we forget Feather. I understand why this is, because Razia was the first and Aurelia is an amazing leader who is always at the front of battle. The downside here is that Aurelia, being an aggressive leader, makes for a very aggressive Boros. And while Red has this aggression as it cares about freedom, the White of Boros should stand for defending the weak, which Aurelia does with more fighting and order, which Aurelia does not often seem to care about. With Feather, more order could be restored. And like how when everything seemed orderly, the red part of the guild took over, I would like for the order of Boros to return too. Feather might bring this with her, now that she's redeemed. Feather is actually most known for her being freed by Krenko. But this is just because Krenko is so popular. She was held in prison because she had been exiled before and Aurelia wanted to take over. Krenko had to steal one of Feather's feathers, for money of course. Then, in War of the Spark story, her name is not even mentioned. We just see a squadron of angels being led by a four-winged angel, of whom there is only one, Feather. But we do know that Feather is orderly, from her 2 pips of white mana instead of her 1 red mana, but we have seen some canon hints here. Feather is seen making some short changes after she was released of her desertion charges, where angels would work together with the mortals of the guild and would help it grow. Equality is a white-collar trait, and Feather has it. When Gideon semi-joined the Legion, Aurelia hinted at Feather's realm when she talked about the dangers of the 9th district. This is a place where the Gruul rampage and the Rakdos play. The inhabitants here are not happy and safe, as you can imagine. But would the Boros be under Feather's command, she would not force the district to change until it would go against Ravnican rules. Aurelia says this about that philosophy. Gideon says first, "And where was the Boros in all this?" Then Aurelia, "I wasn't guildmaster then." Aurelia's reply had a touch of cold steel to it. Gideon had hit a nerve. "We were led by a disgrace to the Legion. I watched as swaths of the 9th slipped away. Its loss and other unforgivable blunders all but forced a change in guild leadership. Forgive me, Jura. I can still taste bitterness of those times. Let me show you something. This small story is called The Greater Good, and Aurelia would fight for that greater good by doing lesser evil. Feather had tried to do good without that evil. Feather the Redeemed art is done by Wayne Reynolds. What this art does is other than the usual guild leader art we see. We can see that Feather is hunched low and ready to strike. We do not see any lust for battle, we just see a practical swing and the fast flying angel. We also see the other angels of her squadron behind her, and even a Parhelion in the upper right of this piece. With Aurelia though, we see an angel that is looming over us, often surveying the battlefield as if she is enjoying what she sees. We still see the same sun behind her sometimes, but often it is the fires of battle that dominate as a light source. Feather's light is that of the sun, a sun that is just reaching over her back, showing us that light is now returning to the Boros. When Boros was first built, the sun home was a symbol for them, a fist of fury and the sun of order and hope, while Aurelia is definitely a fiery fist. Feather could be seen as this hopeful sun. Wayne's art often shows us something like Feather, where we have an intense focus on a character. We see what they are about in a simple language, an action or an emotion in the face. The elements and the background all serve that character. That is to say that wherever they are, the personality of the character is in the background too. Whenever an artist makes art that is focused in color, that does not try to be seen, you have to watch even more carefully, because these colors will mean something. Think about that when you see Feather next. Because Feather's art shows us a tint of red in her two front rings, but the sky is blue, signaling for even more hope, and the sky seems endless. Though at the horizon of this flat planet, there is a streak of white clouds, peaceful clouds, that signal the end of useless wars, hopefully. Feather, the Redeemer of Boros, has an obvious gameplay theme. Her mechanic lets you play targeted buffs over and over. You could get in some cards that deal damage or have secondary effects. Drawing a card for 1 mana per time is a very popular one with Feather. The most seen and remembered are the 1 mana draw a card spells. As she can do this after each end step, these spells could net you 4 cards per 4 mana every rotation of turns. These cards tell us that Feather likes to strengthen her forces. She learns from it in battle too. She likes to keep your army protected too, so it is not necessarily to always attack. You can deal a bit of damage to your creatures, so that you can attack your opponents from afar. It is not always necessary to attack. She might even use Aurelia's hot temperament as an attack. But when she does go in, Feather makes sure that this will be an important win. Some cards target your army and then give you a great effect. Feather is great at long battles of endurance, where you fight multiple battles in a day. She also lets you wipe the battlefield if your creatures are smaller than your opponent. Her personal army should exist of people that she trusts and that grow from lifting others. Other people that embrace the wide philosophy of helping the small. Or sometimes the soldiers that are just there to wreak havoc. She can have those too. Let us begin our ending with a quote that the Boros use to congratulate new recruits with. A war fought with an unjust mind dies in the trenches. A war fought with a valiant heart lives forever in the rubble of your enemy's bones. The Boros believe that the first step in becoming part of the Legion is knowing in your heart what is right. Actually, they believe what is right is already in your heart, and you just have to see it. With Feather being released, we might see a more orderly Boros in the future, on Ravnica and on other planes too. She might not take over, but perhaps she will be able to change the Legion for the better. I hope you like seeing some more into this underlighted character. Thank you for watching.